When he was the head of Uber, Travis Kalanick had been sued many, many times. And finally, he's had one of those lawsuits dismissed. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and I have not talked about Travis Kalanick in a while, and for good reason. He's not really relevant to the gig economy that much anymore. He's certainly not the head of Uber anymore, and even though he has like this new company, 10010 or something like that, it's a bunch of weird numbers. He's apparently still on the board of the Uber, and probably definitely will be cashing out when they go public. He was kicked out of the company basically for being a nuisance, for causing a lot of problems, and Dara Khosrowshahi was brought in to fix a lot of the problems that Kalanick had started. Now, I know some of you are probably going to be asking this, so we're going to delay talking about the story just for a moment, but I'm sure some of you are asking, because you've been asking in the super chats for a while, Kevin, do you think Uber would be better off today with Travis Kalanick? And that's a hard question to answer, because here's the thing. At this point, I'm definitely leaning towards Kalanick was a better CEO. But I also have a hard time committing fully to that thought, because the things that Dara Khosrowshahi is doing, he is building off the blocks that were established by Travis Kalanick. Kalanick laid the foundation for what Uber is today. Khosrowshahi, while putting his own spin on it, didn't necessarily divert from the foundation very much. I mean, yeah, Uber publicly is a lot nicer, and, you know, perception-wise, Uber is, for the most part, looked upon much more fondly by the general public, although that's starting to change again. But in terms of, like, drivers, it's gotten a lot worse. In my opinion, Khosrowshahi has accelerated the problems that Kalanick started for everyone. And I think had Kalanick stayed with the company, at some point, he would have accelerated his own foundation as well. The only reason people notice is because basically he was not a likable guy. He made a lot of gaffes. He was caught on camera doing things you shouldn't be doing. You know, I mean, he should have known that when he called an Uber, a lot of Ubers have dash cams and they would record the footage. And then he got like a personal driver so that he never had to deal with like an Uber driver anymore. But, you know, it's kind of tough, because it's like you're kind of picking on two people who are both, in my opinion, very not qualified to do this. I mean, Khosrowshahi is way more qualified to be a CEO in general, and I believe that many of the changes he is making are for the shareholders' interests, and I don't believe the shareholders care any more about the driver's well-being as much as the passengers do. But Khosrowshahi was hired to bring the company public. I don't think he's going to be around that much longer. Once they go public, he's going to cash out, because I think he knows what we are starting to suspect. This is not a sustainable business. I mean, that's why the rates keep getting cut and the bonuses are going away, all that jazz, because Uber cannot actually function unless they take out the drivers. So that's a little side rant. But the main story is that, a lawsuit was dismissed. So according to Reuters, Travis Kalanick, the co-founder of ride-hailing company Uber and the company's directors, won the dismissal of an investor lawsuit that sought to hold them liable for a fight over trade secrets that slowed Uber's push into autonomous vehicles. That's right, we were talking about that lawsuit for a while. The lawsuit by California investor Leza McElrath, I think so, sought to pin damages on Kalanick and board members for the cost of its high-profile battle with Google's parent company, Alphabet Inc., which accused Uber of stealing self-driving technology. By the way, this lawsuit seems to have a little bit of merit, because under Kalanick, the lawsuit got to court. It actually went to court. And very shortly before the trial started, Khosrowshahi came on board, and then I think we had 3 days of the case playing in public, and then they settled. So Khosrowshahi in that situation actually cleaned up one of Kalanick's messes. But I digress. The ruling on Monday by Delaware Vice Chancellor Sam Glasscock dismissing the lawsuit closes a difficult chapter for Uber, which paid $245 million to Alphabet in February 2018 to settle their trade secrets fight. Uber is scheduled for an IPO this month. Its rival Lyft made a soaring stock market debut last week. opening with a share price of $87.24, but it was down 10% on Monday. By the way, it was up to about $77 on Friday to show that, yeah, it's not going to be as cut and dry whether or not this company can fly on the stock or something. So we still have a little ways to go before we find out if this stock is a dud or a unicorn. Michael Berry, a lawyer with Grant and Eisenhofer in Wilmington who represented McAlrath, declined to comment. An Uber spokesperson said the company was pleased with the court's decision to dismiss this meritless complaint. Well, it wasn't completely meritless, Uber. You did settle. So if you settled, obviously that suggests you did something wrong. I know that doesn't mean you for sure did something wrong. Sometimes companies and people just settle because they don't want to go to court. But you know, that's not exactly a how should we put this? A clean bill of health. Sorry, I noticed the screen is scrolling. Anyway, the decision can be appealed to the Delaware Supreme Court. They will probably do that. The dismissed lawsuit accused Kalanick and Uber's directors of breaching their fiduciary duties to investors by approving Uber's $680 million deal in 2016 for Automoto LLC. The self-driving company trucking company was founded and staffed by former employee of Waymo, which is owned by Alphabet. Uber struck the deal shortly after auto founder Anthony Levandowski resigned from Waymo. Just months after the deal closed, Waymo sued Uber in federal court over allegations that Levandowski brought with him thousands of secret files, which he admitted, by the way. Now, Kalanick said, oh yeah, he admitted, but I told him to destroy those files, which, you know, yeah, but can you prove he destroyed those files? Probably not. So anyway, the Waymo fight set back Uber's self-driving development and led to the shuttering of its autonomous trucking efforts. The lawsuit said the Uber board ignored intellectual property risks from the auto deal and should have been more skeptical of Kalanick's judgment. I agree, but he had super voting shares. So when you have super voting shares, basically every share that Kalanick owns supersedes, like, just a very rudimentary example. Your share might be worth 1 for every share you buy, like might count for 1 vote. But Kalanick shares might count for 5 votes for every share he owns. So it was not fair, and yeah, the board didn't step in, but how much could they have actually done? I don't know. So why is this not scrolling? I think my computer just froze. Wow, the computer froze. Okay, there we go. The Court of Chancery judge, however, said that there was no evidence that the board simply rubber-stamped a deal. A due diligence report on the deal had been prepared, but directors did not review it in full before the board gave its initial approval, and the board had some discussion of potential legal liability from acquiring Otto. Their decision ultimately damaged Uber, wrote Glasscock. Nonetheless, a failure to follow best practices is not necessarily a breach of fiduciary duty. So, yeah, anyway, I suspect this will get appealed to the Delaware Supreme Court, and maybe even higher, because I know that the board members and investors for Uber really don't like Kalanick. Now, granted, he's out of the company, so it seems like there should be nothing else for there to be said about the matter, but the fact is he is still on the board. His decisions did cost the company almost $300 million, and he's going to profit handsomely from the IPO. And I suspect that they want to just not help the guy out anymore. I think they want to get some of those shares back or something to that effect. I think they definitely would probably prefer if he settled, like if he settled whether by giving back shares or by paying a lot of money out of his own pocket. Uber wants some of that money that they paid on the settlement back from, you know, Kalanick. It's just, that's the way it is. So they will probably appeal this, and they will, you know, that's just the way it is. I mean, you can't see the screen anymore. I kind of closed it because there was just nothing but white on it for a while. I don't know why. So I hate it when the computer locks up. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave this story, because we've got a much more important story about Uber and Congress regulators coming up in a few minutes. But I would like to know what you think of this particular story. Do you think Kalanick deserved to have this dismissed, or do you think the judge made a poor judgment decision? I would love to know. So, you know the drill. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way, helping the channel run smoothly and to get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, don't forget to check out the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel, where I have other content, vlogs, and other news stories. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.